record on this. All right, so actually, let's do this. Cool. All right, everybody. What is RP? How do I want to do this? How do I want to intro this? All right, let's see this. All right, so in this video, we're going to be going over what is RPE and how to know if you're working out hard enough. I get this question a lot, and this is why, one of the reasons why I'm actually recording this is because I wanted to create a resource that we could just keep coming back to. And with this, I think it's important to note that everybody's RPE scale is going to be different. So there's no like magic bullet. There's no, oh, just always use this weight and you'll get strong. Like the weight is going to be different for everyone. And the rate of perceived exertion is going to be different for everyone as well. So what is RPE? Well, simply put, it's called rate of perceived exertion. So with that, what I want you to understand is that what it comes down to is like, how hard do you believe that you're pushing? How hard do you believe that you're pushing? So if I have a weight and I'm doing, let's say, bench press reps, for me, let's say I'm doing 100 pounds. Well, 100 pounds is really light. If I do 10 reps at 100 pounds, it doesn't really cause any sort of change, adaptation. There's no mental effort. There's even very little physical effort that goes into that, because I'm a 6'4" male who's been working out for 6 years. So there shouldn't be much effort, in lifting 100 pounds. Whereas my wife, if she were to try to pick up 100 pounds, it would be RPE 10. She'd be like, oh my God, like it would be absolute maximal effort, right? Because she's pregnant and she's 5'3". So, oh, she's actually 5'6". Oops. Anyways, now that we have that on recording, that I'm a terrible husband, let's move forward. So here's how to really really think about this. Like when you're planning your workouts, like what weights should I use? Or let's say you finish a set and you're like, I don't know, like that was easy or that was like way too hard. Brian said, we're going to do 8 reps of bench press. And I'm just like, by rep 4, I'm like struggling. I don't even know if I could do the next 4 reps. That's probably going to be RPE 10, right? So the rating of perceived exertion, or the RPE scale, the way I want you to think about this is like, if it's really, really hard, like you're using your legs to like, you're forcing the weight up. I'm just going to use bench press because it's an easy visual example. You're like really forcing the weight up. It's like that's going to be like a RPE 9. If you're doing a rep that seems like that. Now, if you're just moving the weight, it's like, yeah, really easy. I could probably do, you rack it and you're like, well, I could probably do like 10 more reps, right? That's probably going to be an RPE 2 or 3, right? So where do I want to maximally train? Well, I want to spend most of my time right in between 6 and 8. Right in between 6 and 8. Now I know 5 says challenging, but challenging more from like a cardiovascular standpoint. If it's an RPE 5, like I'm like, all right, yeah, I felt it. I had to exert some effort, but I'm not like, it wasn't so easy that it basically feels like I'm just moving my arms. Okay. Where I want to spend, and when I train, I spend most of my time in 6 through 9. Very rarely do I get up to 10. In fact, I only really train my quote unquote max. You may have heard the phrase like maxing out once every 16 to 18 weeks. Some people like maybe if you watch a couple of YouTube videos, they'll tell you like, you need to be failing more. Sure. I agree. If you want to be a bodybuilder, sure. I agree. If maybe you're on gear and it's like, you're just trying to get the most muscle growth at all times. But we're here for longevity, and we're here to become healthy. We're here to have strong joints, and we're here to feel amazing going through life. The people that train at RPE 10 at all times, if you ever heard the name Ronnie Coleman, he was like this massive bodybuilder, super famous. The dude's on crutches. He's had like 9 back surgeries. I don't want that. So we don't want to be training at, level 10 hardness all the time, every single week. But if we operate through 6 through 8, what this does is this creates enough stimulus where our muscles need to grow and change or get bigger or get stronger, because this requires effort. This requires, like, when you're in an RPE 7, okay, or an RPE 8, when you rack the weight on a bench press, you're like, wow, yeah, I probably could do 2 or 3 more reps, maybe 3, right? Because you can also think about this as like, how many more reps could I have done? This actually makes a lot more sense in my brain. It's like, okay, if I rack and I could do 2 more reps, that means I probably am at like an RPE 8 or 9. If I can do 2 or 3 more reps, I'm probably at an RPE 7, right, or 8. So you can think about this as like, how many more reps could I have done if I kept going? So I built this out, right? If it's an RPE 9, like I could have got 1 more. If I could get 2 more, it's an RPE 8, 3 more, 7. As you can see, it's just like a reverse correlation to the scale. And really, you don't want to go below like, oh, like if I could have done 5 or more reps, like that just means I'm warming up, right? Like I'm not actually going to create any change in my body. I'm not going to create any change in my muscles, and I'm not going to be, creating any sort of enough stimulus to create an adaptation. So how hard should I train? Well, very simple. Keep it simple. Big compound movements, things we're using. What a compound movement is just 2 or more joints. So like on a bench press, I'm using my elbow joint and my shoulder joint. So that's a compound movement. On tricep extensions, I'm just using my elbow joint. Does that make sense? Okay. So big compound movements, bench press, squats, leg press, the stuff that's typically programmed, in 8 to 10 reps, you should be like RPE 7 or 8. You want to get up to a weight that'll be like, I could do like 2 or 3 more reps. So for you, you're going to have to test that out. You're going to have to explore a little bit. Maybe some weeks, right? I'll have weeks where I'm feeling so good and like I'll squat and I'll be like, man, what felt like I could do 2 more reps would be 20 pounds heavier versus like, even sometimes I'll have weeks where like an RPE 7 or 8 is just not going to happen. I'm mentally exhausted. I'm tired. I didn't get that much sleep. Like, I don't know. I just don't have it. Like that happens, by the way. Like not every lift is going to be perfect, right? So if you have a week where like a lot of the compound lifts, you're like an RPE 5 or 6, you're like, yeah, I probably could have done a couple more, but like, just don't have it today. It's like, that's okay. You got the lift in. This is again more about building the habits and building the identity around like, I work out even when I don't feel perfect. Right. But when you're feeling moderately good or very good or amazing, it's like, yeah, get up to that RPE 7 or 8. You should always be able to do like 2 or 3 more reps. And when I say 2 or 3, I don't mean like, oh, I racked it and I could have went 1, 2 and then re-racked it. What I'm talking about is like when I rack, it's like if I were to come back down, it would be like really hard to do 1 more. And like I'd be like pretty much failing if I did a second rep. Okay. So you're still pushing yourself. For the accessory movements, tricep extensions, calf raises, bicep curls, these single joint movement patterns, these are typically programmed for reps like 12 to 14 representatives, 12 to 14 repetitions. These are going to be more like an RPE 6 or 7, right? Because you're doing a little bit more volume here. And that's just because these muscles, when you work like a tricep extension, that needs more repetitions for it to stimulate growth, because we use our triceps for literally everything. So if I'm going to grow my triceps, like I'm not going to grow it with 5 or 6 reps. Like I'm going to grow it with 12 to 14 reps. It needs that much stimulus to actually grow. So if you have any questions, send me a text, send me a message on Facebook. We're in the group together, whatever it may be. But Yeah, I hope this kind of clears up like the how hard should I be training? Like, how hard should I be pushing myself? The weights don't matter. It's really what the effort is, because where somebody is going to be able to bench press 315 pounds, another person is probably never going to bench 315 pounds, right? So don't worry so much about the weight, but focus on the RPE scale.